Good evening, all. Thank you for joining me, Dorothea, on Through an Orthodox Christian Lens. It is July 11, 2025. However, this segment is for Saturday because I'm going to be on vacation with my family for the weekend and won't be back until Monday afternoon. So, I have this particular segment for Saturday, and I'm going to read it to you. New details about the raid on a church in Ukraine. A coordinated special operation. If you recall, I did a video just a couple weeks ago on this particular siege seizure on this particular church, and that people were hit, and the priest was dragged around, and there was video of his head being bloody. This is the same church. So when all those two vans that came up and dropped off people, and it was just all coordinated apparently. So the raid on the canonical Orthodox Holy Spirit Cathedral in Chernovitsy, Bukovina province of Ukraine has become known around the world, shocking even non-Orthodox U.S. politicians. But a recent report on the incident by the Union of Orthodox Journalists shed light on the details of what they have called a coordinated special operation by the bishop of the non-canonical OCU, various militants, and the local police. The report shows how the authorities are working together with what they would like to have as a state church. The OCU, created in Ukraine through a Thomas granted by Patriarch Bartholomew of Constantinople. The intent behind the report was to forewarn the faithful about the development of a new tactic in church raids and how they can defend their churches against them. The website reports concerning the events of June 17, 2025 in Chernovitsy. Around 2:30 p.m., an invalid, remember, he was rolled up to the church door, in a wheelchair was brought into the church. It was on security camera footage that I did in the last video on this. The man then suddenly stood up from the wheelchair and together with his companions began beating parishioners and priests right next to the altar. At the same time, a bus with militants appeared near the church, and a few minutes later another bus arrived. A crowd of young men in balaclavas stormed the church grounds, initiating what can only be described as a well-rehearsed operation of lawlessness. The standard tactic of the OCU, Orthodox Church of Ukraine, is usually simple and cynical. Militants with angle grinders and crowbars show up and seize the church. This has been repeated hundreds of times throughout Ukraine. This raid followed the same pattern, but with one key difference. The raiders were clearly operating under police protection. In the video footage, Deputy Police Chief, I can't pronounce his name, is clearly visible. He knew exactly what was happening, although in a later interview he claimed he didn't know who the masked men were. It is obvious that everything had been prearranged with the city administration and personally with OCU Bishop Bodoryak. As soon as the militants entered the church, Bodoryak posted on social media, a historic event. We are in the cathedral. Come immediately. The time of the post was 2:54 p.m., 5 to 10 minutes before the operation began. Notably, he wrote "we," directly indicating his involvement in the incident. Yet on June 20, this person claimed that the OCU had no connection to the militants. This was a bald-faced lie because the militants did not come alone. They were accompanied by this man's diocesan secretary, OCU priest Ivan Chokalyuk, and Vasil Kaprian, a cleric of the OCU Cathedral in Chernivtsi. It was Kaprian who stepped off the bus, opened the back doors, and let the militants out. The operation against the church was coordinated by this person himself. He stood by as Orthodox priests were brutally beaten until they bled and lost consciousness. UOC priest Roman Forrest, a father of 8 children, was taken to intensive care with broken ribs, a fractured nose, and internal injuries. Another UOC priest, Vitaly Huncharyuk, was also hospitalized. Meanwhile, Ivan Chokolyuk entered the church, changed into a cassock, and together with Vasil Kaprian prepared for a prayer in the Ukrainian language which had been announced by his superior Borodyak. Chernitsy mayor Roman Klitschuk also wrote about this prayer, though he later deleted his post. The police formed a shield not to protect the faithful, but to protect the raiders. Law enforcement officers used violence against the praying faithful, spraying tear gas in their faces. Oh yes, I remember this one. This is the one, I don't think it's, I guess it was all the same one. All entry points to the city were blocked. People were prevented from reaching the church. A full-scale lockdown of the city began against its own citizens. But social media among the concerned citizens moved faster than the police. Within an hour, 1,000 people had gathered at the church. Within 2 hours, several thousand. People blocked the street, demanding justice. Metropolitan Mileti was struck in the face with tear gas by the police after being assaulted by an OCU militant. Disoriented, he nevertheless did not abandon his flock. He appealed to the UN, OSCE, and the United States. The police are protecting the militants. It was a true SOS broadcast live for the entire world to see. The OCU leadership remained silent. They had given their approval to violence. This is their strategy. The absence of any comment speaks of complicity. By evening, the people's patience wore out. Thousands of faithful broke through the fence, and the police began to retreat. The security forces realized they were powerless against the people. Tear gas was sprayed inside the church, outside. The same was done by police. People were choking, but did not back down. The police agreed to negotiate. The faithful formed a corridor for the militants, who exited the church to chants of shame. The OCU priests, including Ivan Chokolyuk, left with them. The buses took the militants away, but they were released just a kilometer away. That very evening, they were seen drinking at a restaurant owned by the city's mayor, Roman Klitschuk. A parliamentary question was posted June 6th on the website of the European Parliament. What is the Commission's official stance on this incident? 2. Can events such as this lead to Ukraine's accession to the EU being put on hold until crimes against minorities, and in particular the Romanian minority, cease and respect for human rights in Ukraine is restored? In the post, the shocking details of attacks on the bishops, priests, and worshippers, resulting in severe physical harm and hospitalizations, were reported, but no statement by EU Parliament had been issued in response. Meanwhile, former Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko commented that preparations for the operation had not been sufficiently worked through and volunteered his own help in the next raid on the Holy Spirit Cathedral in Chernitsy, claiming that God will help them. Oh my gosh. This is absolutely horrible. Just horrible. And I did read these to you, these past articles. So, as always, as you know, I keep an eye on what's going on with the Ukrainian Church, the canonical one, and, persecutions, seizures, persecutions continue. But eventually, that'll change. And these churches will be okay, set free. Whatever they were taken away, whatever seized ones, I believe they'll be returned at some point. After Russia has marched into Kiev, dealt with the government there. I'm not crazy about, I don't like violence, but how else are we going to stop this? I don't know what they'll do, but it has to stop. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you want to, you can follow my Rumble channel. If you like my videos, please like them. Punch that like button, and share my videos if you like them. Share them with others. Share my channel. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you're having a great weekend. Until next time.